Investing on property is a big deal, but how does one even begin putting money on real estate? We'll learn about this in today's Money Talks from Charlie Gorayeb. He's the national chairman of the Chamber of Real Estate and Builders Associations, or CREBA. Good afternoon, Charlie.
Good afternoon, Mai.
Thank you for joining us in the studio today. Okay, more than having a home, what does it mean to invest in real estate? Explain to our viewers ano ang real value nito and the benefits.
Well, if you're investing on your first home or housing unit, you're investing for the future of your family. So that's the biggest value on that investment. And not to mention that you are forced to go into savings to pay for your amortization of your investment if you buy a house. So there is a big benefit always.
And it doesn't depreciate.
Well,
Is that correct?
the only thing that depreciates is the structure. But if your maintenance,
The land doesn't
yes, the land
depreciate.
appreciates.
Yes.
That's why after 25 years, the value of the land really appreciates, sometimes 5 times, 6 times, 10 times.
Of course, Charlie, you need to know the ropes of investing in real estate. What are the primary points or issues that you need to consider before putting money on property?
First of all, you must determine whether you have a disposable income, so to speak. Because if you're going to borrow, if you're an average
Yes.
income earner, and you're going to borrow, it may not be a good investment move.
If you're just going to be burdened by the interest rates.
Correct. And besides, if you're an average income earner, you may not have that ability to continue. You'll never know that in 5 years, 10 years, it might the employment might change, the income might change. But investing on your first home, that should be the first thing that a couple must look into seriously. Because the moment you buy your first home, that's an investment.
Yes.
A very solid investment.
And you mentioned average income earners. For them, how can they start buying their own home instead of just renting?
We have funds coming from Pag-ibig, the major source of funds for housing. If you're a member of Pag-ibig, definitely you can apply for a home loan. They will qualify you if you have, again, your income, your employment would justify lending you that loan to buy a house. That's the start.
Okay. Charlie, where do you look when eyeing an investment? What are considered the prime spots these days, or best of all, those that are not too pricey, that are considered affordable, but have potential?
Every area, any area in the country has a potential for investment. Especially if you're, again, unlike giants, developers, and all these investors. But again, if you're an average income earner and you want to invest and you have extra income, you can go back to your own province, buy a small agricultural land, buy a small lot, and wait for, say, 5-10 years, develop it or sell, turn around and sell them. So it's not a very complicated investment opportunity, Mai.
But is there still a real estate boom in the Philippines, or is there any basis to fears of a real estate bubble or housing bubble?
We keep on hearing to this thing about bubble. Again, people who mention this are those who, not you of course, those who would go and say, I told you so speech.
Because we read a lot about it in the papers or in the opinion pages.
The country has a big market. We have a backlog of 15 years ago, government people were saying 4.5 million housing backlog. After 20 years, they're still saying 4.5 million. Even assuming the backlog of 4.5 million housing units, we cannot even serve the annual requirement, much less trying to reduce the backlog. So there is a big market, and the
Okay.
biggest market is the OFW.
Okay, yes, that's very true.
Yes.
Let's now explore the option of real estate partnership. Can you explain to us how this works?
You mean a joint venture? Well, it's simple. If you have the money, the guy has a land available, you can go into a joint venture, you provide the funds. If you do not know how to develop it, get somebody who has experience in development, so you now have a tripartite. Landowner, developer, and funder, in the case of somebody who has the money. Again, you can go into simple joint venture, landowner and developer. So the landowner provides the land, the developer plans, markets the project, and then the landowner gets a share of what it depends on their agreement on the sharing.
In the real estate business today, which developers are considered sound? Are there any developers that potential investors need to look into or do their research first before they invest or buy a condo?
There are, of course, few bad eggs.
So where do they find out which are these
You
bad
ask
eggs?
CREBA,
Okay,
because we have
they
a
go to
list
you.
of our members.
Okay.
And if you have developers who are very credible, reliable,
Top of
Ayala,
mind, sir. Okay.
SM, Vista, Mega World, and they have different product lines and different schemes. SM, they say that SM is building a lot. Why? Because they have a lot of money to build. They do not have to wait 5 years to deliver, unlike some other developers who have to, buyers who have to pay today and delivery 5 years from now. But like DMCI, they along with the marketing, they build and marketing side by side. So there are different schemes of buying and selling and developing.
Finally, Charlie, can you tell our viewers who want to invest, can you give them advice? What are the key 3 things they need to remember?
Location is number one. Number 2, if they're investing and they're borrowing, they better watch out.
Okay.
Now, if they're investing to rent it out, maybe the rent income and they borrowed money to buy that unit, the rent income may not be enough to pay for the monthly amortization of the unit. So again, the key is, if you cannot afford to borrow, really, do not borrow.
Okay. Yeah. Sound
Do not.
advice.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for joining us today, Charlie. We were just talking to Charlie Gorayeb. He's the national chairman of the Chamber of Real Estate and Builders Associations, or CREBA, for today's Money Talks.